Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session, Level Up Your Salesforce CLI with Gulp. My name is Ankit Taneja, and I'm today presenting with my co-founder, Sebastian Bresin. And before we begin, we would like to give a huge shout out to the London's Calling organizing team so that they give us the opportunity to at least record this content that we created for you. And these guys are doing a really good job with that. So thank you, London's Calling team, for everything. And yeah, let's begin. So, our talk is basically about automation and how you can do how you can do more with less. So, as you all know, Salesforce CLI helps a lot with automation, and we both are programmers at heart. We love automation. If we can do something with one script, then we'll do it that way. So SFDX and CLI basically go ahead and help you create those automations. And what the way you do this is you write your own plugins. So what our talk basically revolves around is to help you create your own plugins so that you can write your own automations. And Gulp is a automation tool which is used a lot in the JavaScript ecosystem. It's used for building files and moving files around. So if you put Gulp together in the plugin, that's just cherry on the top. So to begin with, we will talk a little bit about SFDX and what is a CLI. We'll give you a refresher if you don't know these things. Then Sebastian will show us a quick demo of how to create our first SFDX plugin. Then we'll go ahead and I'll give you a little introduction to Gulp, what it is all about, a little bit about MGML, and then Sebastian will close it off with the second demo. All right, let's begin. So before we start, just to give you a little background, as I mentioned, my name is Ankit Taneja, and we are founders of SkillProof, which is a Salesforce aptitude testing service. It's at www.skillproof.cloud. I used to work as a Salesforce freelancer, or I still work as a freelancer every now and then while starting the company. I created a Salesforce job board at blazenewtrail.com where you can look for jobs or post free Salesforce jobs. And lastly, I also podcast at Forcepreneur, where we talk to Salesforce entrepreneur about their journey and what it is like to start a company in Salesforce Cosmos. So if you have ever been thinking about going on an entrepreneurial journey in Salesforce, you should check it out. Sebastian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sebastian. I've been working as a Salesforce freelancer for 5-6 years now. And at one of our local Salesforce developer meetups, I met Ankit. And now we're starting this company together. So go to your local meetups, talk to the people, and I hope you enjoy our talk.
Right. Yeah, and Sebastian is also a very avid open source contributor. Moving on. So what is SFDX? So SFDX stands for Salesforce Developer Experience, if you didn't get it. But basically, it's a fundamental mindset or philosophy about how we go ahead and program and build on Salesforce platform. So it's a collection of tools and features. Now, if you have been programming like me from, I don't know, 2012, 11 or 12, there was only one source of truth, which was your production org, and everybody had their individual sandboxes. So the whole Salesforce development lifecycle was not that good documented, or it was incomplete. I would not call it broken. I would call it incomplete. Now, SFDX goes ahead and fills in all those blanks. So it has taken inspiration from other development life cycles, like for Java or JavaScript or other technologies, and kind of embrace that. So to begin with is source-driven development. So the first tool is, you have source-driven development, and your source is, you can use version control systems like SVN or Git, so that there's one source of truth, which is very important. Previously, on a production org, if without you knowing somebody created a validation rule or something else, you wouldn't know. So to have version control systems so that everything is streamlined is very important for modern day collaboration. And yeah, the next step is continuous integration, which carries forward the source driven development. So as soon as you deploy a new you deploy some new code, you merge a pull request, your CI kicks in, and it checks if everything is validating and going fine. It can be Circle, it can be Travis, it can be any CI tool that you want. Combining these together is our favorite feature, which is scratch orgs. Now, scratch orgs are a clear game changer. They are like sandboxes, but basically you can say what features do you want in the Scratch org, what you don't want in the Scratch org. So you can kind of emulate a Salesforce org according to your need or according to what you're developing on right now. And using again source development and CI, you can push code to Scratch orgs after creation. You can pull from it, and yeah. Continuing, the other SFDX tool is packaging. Now, again, with SFDX, you can also create or distribute apps via the command line. You can organize the metadata, and you can use a really CLI-centric approach to creating packaging or packages for Salesforce. And last but not the least is the Salesforce CLI. Now, Salesforce CLI is like the meat and potatoes of the whole dish, and this is like the one of the core changes which has been made during the whole development platform. So let's dig a little more deeper into what is Salesforce CLI. Now, Salesforce CLI is a powerful command line interface that simplifies development and build automation with working with your Salesforce orgs. If you are from a Unix or a Linux background, you would feel completely at home with the Sales CLI. So basically, you don't use point and click, you just use commands to go ahead and make the system do a bunch of stuff. Let's look at some of the main features of the CLI. So the first feature, which is the most important, is it's based on Oakleaf, which is the Open CLI framework, and it's built by Heroku. So all the Salesforce CLI is built around the open source tooling, which is open and stable, and supported by other companies, but also they have been made by our close colleagues at Heroku. So you can go out and check their GitHub repo. It's quite nice, and it has a lot of projects. Again, the next thing about CLI is you can go ahead and deploy the code to Scratch org, or you can pull from Scratch orgs. So let's say you did something in the Scratch orgs, you did a metadata change, you can go ahead and pull it up. The next one is related. You can create and again manage Scratch orgs. So you don't need to go ahead in some UI somewhere. You can just go ahead and do SFDX force create, and it will create a Scratch org for you. Provided the JSON file, so that in this JSON file you basically tell, it's called Scratch org definition, and in JSON file you tell what does the Scratch org must contain, what should be the features which should be on, so on and so forth. The other features is also you can use the CLI to create and execute tests. So you don't need to go to developer console and then click on test. You can just use it. You can do it through the CLI or through your screen, and you can quickly see the test results. It's very powerful, and we use it a lot at Skillproof. And last but not the least, you can also build plugins. So Salesforce CLI, as I mentioned, can also be used to build other scripts to help you with your data. Some honorable mention is also importing and exporting of data. Yeah. So moving on, talking about plugins, what is an SFDX plugin? Plugin in themselves are extra pieces of code, that enhance the core functionality. A good example of a plugin would be extensions in VS Code. Like if you have been programming with VS Code, I'm pretty sure you installed the Apex extension, the LWC extension, or if you go back in time in the 90s, there used to be the Winamp player, and then you can install different plugins, which gives it a different skin to the player. So plugins are just extra features of code or patches which go ahead and enhance the core functionality of any base app. Now in SFDX, they are a collection of custom SFDX commands. So you have a script where you can write a bunch of commands which you anyways do, and then you can go ahead and script them all together. So the idea is you don't have to repeat yourself. If there is a certain workflow that you follow every day or every time your development or your deployment happens, then you can go ahead and bunch them all together, and then it does it for you. So you just use one command and it automates everything for you. And lastly, they are written in TypeScript. So TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript, and it has been developed by Microsoft, and it's also open source. There can be a whole presentation and talk about TypeScript, so I will not go much detail about it. I think just check it out. They have very nice documentation. So moving on, yeah, that's about the plugin. So just just to do a brief recap, we have the SFDX, which is like a new philosophy or a mindset how to program stuff, and then we have the CLI, which is one of the tools that SFDX provide. And now combining these tools, we'll go ahead and create our first Hello World plugin. So Sebastian, please take over.
Yeah. So let's go to the first part of the demo. In the first part of the demo, we are going to create just a Hello World plugin so that you all know how to get started. For this, we have some prerequisites, like you need to install Node.js, SFDX, of course, and Yarn on your system. You could also go without Yarn, but Salesforce decided to go with it. So to make it easy for this demo, we will do two. Then there's two tips. If you work a lot with Node, you will want to have a Node version manager like NVM. And the second one is working with the CLI is much more pleasant if you have proper shell completions installed. And there's options for every popular shell. So if you're a Bash, CSH, or a Fish user, just Google them. It's not hard to find. Okay, let's go on with scaffolding the first plugin. The first thing that we have to understand is that every CLI command is a plugin. And so even the core commands which come with the CLI after you installed it, so everything in this force namespace. So if you used the CLI before, there's all these commands, SFDX, force, source, push, for example, or force, source, pull, or force, org, and so on. The list is long. And these are organized with a plugin. So what we're going to do, we're going to hit the terminal and we just run SFDX plugins -- core once. And this gives us a list of all installed plugins, including the core ones. And as you see, vanilla SFDX, after you installed it, already comes with lots of plugins. So there's lots of stuff from Oclive. And then, for example, there's the Salesforce DX plugin. And this is the one which provides you with all these force namespace commands. And then there is another interesting core plugin, and it's the generator. And the generator helps you to scaffold your own plugin project. So to get started with your own SFDX plugin, it's as easy as running this command down there. So you can run SFDX plugins generate and then give it a path where your project should live in. And it only takes a few seconds normally and you're up and running. For the demo, we already did this. And so I'm going to show you what you will get from this. And what you will get is a folder structure like this one. So you have this project folder and it already has everything set up for you that you might need. So there's already some linting configuration. There is the package JSON with some scripts. All the dependencies are already installed. And it also ships with the hello world command, which is already quite, they will try to show a lot of features here. So for to give you a more simple start, we created another hello world command, which is a bit simpler, and it looks like this. It's just 10 lines of code, and it basically shows you how a command in your plugin can look like. And the only thing that you basically have to do, you have to import the SFDX command class from Salesforce, and then you have to export your own class, which extends the SFDX command class, and implement the run method. And then that's basically it for the base. You have way more options here. You can add a command description. You can add command line flags. You can add examples. There's a huge set of options, and it's pretty well documented. So start simple, but look at the for all the more complex things. Just take a look at the docs. Just to show you how we now get from this code to running commands. Actually, is there is a mechanism for this. So you go into your plugin project. I'm in here now, and everything you have to do is run SFDX plugins link. And when you do this, your development version of your plugin is globally available through the SFDX CLI. So after you link your plugin, you can just CD into your project folder and run commands from the plugin. So our hello world command is already available, and I can run it. It says Hi London 2020, and it's as easy as this to get started. So that's it for the first part of the demo. In the second part, we will make something actually useful.
Right. So thank you, Sebastian. Thank you for the demo. As you guys saw, that it's not that hard to start building your own plugin, and Salesforce perhaps rather provides you all the scaffolding. So there is a generator plugin which is already included, which helps you go ahead and create your own plugin. So moving on, what are we going to build today? Now we come to the main part of the talk is we are going to build a plugin with Gulp. But before we do that, what is Gulp? I'm not sure if many of you have the idea. Well, Gulp is a task runner. So in theory, uh, Gulp is a cross-platform streaming task runner that lets developers automate many development tasks. And if you have used any other technology like Vue or the blazeneutral.com job board we made is built on Vue. And once it's a single page application. And once it's building, there are different files which needs to be compiled together and a CSS magic that needs to happen. And Gulp kind of goes ahead and does that. And these tasks are code-based, and basically Gulp reads these files as streams and pipes the streams to different tasks. So it's a very low level kind of task runner, and it's very useful. Let's look at some of the examples of what Gulp can be used for. So it can be used for running shell commands, excuse me. And one of the things can be you can spawn a child process, and let's say you can have your Salesforce code run through PMD, because PMD runs its own, and then you kind of get an output file. Then you can go ahead and read, write, or move this file somewhere, maybe send it through email, parse this file to see if there are any vulnerabilities in your code. One of the main advantages of using Gulp is watching for changes. So again, if you have done development on some other platforms, other technologies, then you can run a server on the local host. And while you're programming, if you make any changes, Gulp listens for them, recompiles the file, and you can see the changes in the local host. Lastly, again, orchestrate your build pipeline. So as I mentioned, this is mostly applicable to front-end platforms where the JavaScript and the CSS needs to be compiled, and like HTML needs to be generated and so on. So you can tell Gulp how to do those things. And it can also make you coffee if you have a ESP32 or an IoT machine connected to your coffee machine. For today's example, we are going to use MJML. Now at Skillproof, we send a lot of emails. And in order to create responsive emails that are responsive on all kinds of browsers or phones, is a pain that you must have also dealt with at some point. So MJML is created by Mailjet, and it's a responsive, and this is what we use to go ahead and create our email templates. Basically, you go ahead and create one template, and then the MJML engine spits out the email HTML templates, which can then be used in Salesforce to send forward. LGML is easy to understand, that it plays really well with Gulp. So our plugin is going to go ahead. So we are going to use MJML in Salesforce, which has nothing to do with Salesforce, usually MJML. Go ahead and create a plugin that will spit out the email templates, which can then be deployed to Salesforce directly via CLI without opening the browser at all. Before we begin, just to give you a quick example of how an MJML template looks like. Again, as I said, as you see, there is a body, there's a section. So if you are used to HTML, getting used to MGML is not a big task. Like, you will feel directly at home if you do this. And yeah, again, Sebastian will now give you the demo of how are we going to make this plugin.
All right. So we are going to go back to our almighty list. There it is. So we scaffolded the first plugin. We added our first command. One thing I didn't tell you before about the structure of your plugin. Inside the source folder, you have this commands folder, and then you have this folder structure here. And this folder structure is actually meaningful. So this is coming from Oak Cliff. You basically have the complete freedom to organize your commands under topics and subtopics, and organize them in a way that suits you. So it says, and it's really easy to do. You just have to create the folders, and Oak Cliff will do all the magic. So for our Hello World command, for example, we created the skill proof folder here, and inside the skill proof folder, we created the Hello file, our Hello World plugin. And as you've seen before, the command, we get a skill proof : hello. And for our next step, we are going to build our MGML compiler plugin. And so we created the subtopic emails and added the MGML file there. So the command will be skillproof : emails : ngml. And now if we do other stuff with emails, we could just add more files here and add more commands. It's as simple as that. And if you want to move things around, you can just move the commands in other folders, and the naming will be done. It works automatically for you. Okay, now to our next command. We're now implementing something more complex than just hello world. We want to compile the MGML email templates, and we're going the quick way. And everything you do in your plugin it's TypeScript. So at its core, it's JavaScript, and it's compatible with everything you find in the JavaScript ecosystem. So you can go to npm.js, search for some packages, add them through Yarn, import them, and just use them. It's all JavaScript. And this is also true for Gulp and Gulp plugins. And why we came up with this has the reason that the SFDX CLI is very good when you're working with Salesforce APIs. Inside your command class, you just move this thing away. There's some special magic attributes. So one of them, for example, is requires username. And when you set this one to true, your command from this point on needs the U command line flag when it's invoked, and needs a valid org. So the framework makes sure for you that your user is providing you with an org you authenticated against, and inside your run method, you get the instance variable this.org, and you can do lots of stuff with this org. One example is you can run get connection, and what this does for you, I just put this into a variable. This variable now is an instance of a connection object from JSForce. You may heard of JSForce. JSForce is the most popular JavaScript library for accessing Salesforce APIs. And in the context of SFDX plugins, it's the tool to access any of the Salesforce APIs. Can be the REST API, streaming API, metadata API, tuning API, whatever you want. And you would just need to go to the JSForce website, to the documentation, and find out how to accomplish your task, basically. And inside an SFDX plugin, you don't have to worry about the authentication. It just works. So the SFDX CLI plugins, if you work with Salesforce APIs, it's a really great experience. The other thing you sometimes do, you want to work with files inside your project folder. And the vanilla SFDX CLI doesn't provide you with any magic there. You can go ahead and you can use Node.js's own file system API, which is powerful, but sometimes not so pleasant to work with. For example, if you wanted to reverse a folder structure, then you have to do lots of loops, and it's not so nice to look at. So we go back to Gulp and see what Gulp actually excels in. And Gulp excels exactly in this point, working with files. So Gulp can, for you, glob your files, read them, process, compile, convert, alter, move, duplicate, and save them somewhere else, or like save the compiled version or transformed version of them. So let's bring it together. The first thing for the next step is we're going to need a few more dependencies. So you can just go to the terminal, go back to your plugin project, and add the dependencies. For our example now, it's Gulp, of course. Then it's Gulp MGML, which is the Gulp MGML plugin for Gulp, which is built by the MGML team themselves. Then MGML, which is the MGML engine, which actually does the compiling. And then we also, for this demo, we also include Gulp debug, just to make the output on the terminal a bit more richer, so that you more see what's going on. And then we're going to add a few, if you're familiar with TypeScript, or once you got a bit familiar, you will know that you need external type definitions for some libraries. So we're going to install them for the ones that we're using. After you added all the new dependencies, we are going to our MGML command file here. And it comes in under 30 lines of code and already does everything that we want. And I just going to walk you through here shortly. First, we import all the stuff we need. And then, like in the hello command, we export our own class, which extends the SFDX command, and we implement the run method. We're going to greet you all with a hi. And now comes the Gulp part, this one. Gulp has the two most important methods that Gulp gives you is the source and the destination methods. So basically everything you do with Gulp starts with the source. The source method accepts a glob pattern and then an object with more options. And so for our case, our glob pattern is really simple. Somewhere we have a folder called email. It's the folder name that SFDX uses for the folder where the email templates will be. It can have any kind of subfolders. And in there, we have our .mgml files. These are our source files. And then we just tell Gulp that our base is this folder so that we can easily save the resulting files in the same folder. That's all that this is doing. And the source, as you see here, the source method returns you a Node.js read-write stream. The Node.js stream is also very well documented, so read about it. It's just one way of asynchronous programming, which is in some cases pretty nice. And what basically happens here, Gulp finds all the MGML files, reads them one by one, and then streams them through all your plugins. And this is what you do with the pipe command. So we call .source on the returning stream, we call .pipe, and then we pipe it into our Gulp debug plugin, which gives us a bit of log output. It just tells us the file names, you will see. After that, we pipe it to our MGML plugin. And the MGML plugin in this case takes a few options. First thing, it needs the MGML engine, and then a few options. I deactivated minifying for now because we want to look at the HTML and it's easier like this. And we need a special file extension. Without configuration, it would output .html files. Salesforce in the Salesforce source, the emails have the .email file extension. And finally, we pipe the result into the Gulp destination. and we just output it in the same folder. What we get as return from all of this is the stream. I just called it the Gulp stream. Now is the question, how do we await that the stream basically is done with its work before we finish our command? And it's the run method in an SFDX plugin is already an async method. So we can await promises, but a stream is something different. It's not a promise. So what we want to do now is we want to wrap the stream in a promise. So that's why I created the simple helper method here. It accepts a Node.js read-write stream and returns a new promise. And it's really, really simple. Inside the promise constructor, you just wait for the stream to emit an end event or an error event. For the end event, we resolve the promise. For the error event, we reject it with the error. And doing this, we can really simple just await the stream to finish its work. Then we put out another log message, and that's it for the demo. It's like we wanted to keep it simple. And now I'm going to show you how it's working in the end. So we have this really simple demo project. This is just the really simple default SFDX project. And we have our email templates here. And as you see next to the Salesforce, two files for Salesforce, we have our MGML file. And when we open this one, this is the HTML template. It's basically HTML with a few extra tags. And nice things from MGML. They have a VS Code extension, which gives you the ability to live preview your template. So you can go in here and can type stuff, and it updates immediately. So it's also pleasant to work on the templates. And the next step is somehow we need to transform our MGML templates into this email file. So we are going to use our newly created plugin. So I'm going to cd into our project folder and run our command. So it was skill proof. By the way, if you forgot what commands are there, what the name was, you can also just hit enter, and then the CLI tells you there is a skill proof hello command and there is a subtopic called emails. So you don't have to always remember everything. So I'm going to run skill-proof emails MGML. And here we see the output, Hi London 2020. The Gulp debug plugin outputted the file names for us. So you see it found all the MGML templates that we created. It found 2 items in total, and then it was done. And back to our demo project, I can open this .email file. And as you see, this is plain HTML. I just activate the highlighting for you. This is just plain HTML, and it has all these quirks for Microsoft Office, for Outlook, and for Internet Explorer and everything, so that the that your email is responsive in every client on every device. And now it's a standard Salesforce source, so we can just go on and push it to the Scratch org, which I already created. Sorry, we can push to the Scratch org like this. I already did this. Takes a few seconds, and then we can go into our org. We can check out our example email template here, and there you see the email template. It's pretty simple. And it's a default Salesforce email template. You can use it anywhere in your workflow rules, for your users, for anything. One more thing about the plugins. Really, the sky's the limit here. You can basically, it's TypeScript code, so you can do anything that you can do with TypeScript, you can do in your plugin. You can look for any package you find in the ecosystem and come up with a use case for it and build together a plugin. You can also use Node.js has a mechanism for child processes where you can fork your Node process or spin up new ones. So you could also run other SFDX commands from inside your plugin if you want to. So get creative and be sure to open source what you're doing so that anyone can profit. That was basically the demo.
Right. Yeah. As Sebastian already spoke about the next slide, sky's the limit. So you can go ahead and do whatever you want with your plugins. Just next slide, please. If you're looking for some inspiration, then you can check out these people, Shane, Wade, Kier. They have made some amazing plugins. Wade has also made a completion for the ZSH that I use. So yeah, check out these people's GitHub repos for inspiration, and you can go from there. And as Sebastian said, we would be happy if you make something and show us something. So to recap, we just created a MGML plugin and put it inside a SFDX plugin. We used the plugin and put it inside the plugin, and then you can go ahead and execute from there. And I hope now we have some time for the live Q&A. Hopefully by the end of this talk. And yeah, thank you all for your time. Thank you, the London's Calling organizing team, for helping us out with this today. As we mentioned, we are founders of Skillproof, and we are looking for some beta testers. Just check us out and hit us up at Ankit at Skillproof or Sebastian at skillproof.cloud. Thank you.
Coacto are a Salesforce implementation company with over 18 years experience working with Salesforce. With our expertise in Salesforce, supply chain and ERP projects, we're here to support customers and partners in all stages of their implementation. We have a track record of success helping organizations to realize their Salesforce vision. Coact with us to make Salesforce work for you or your customers. Coacto, we realize your Salesforce vision.